And welcome back. This is another episode of the Muay Thai Minute. I'm your host, Lavelle Wesley, and my co-host.
Andrew Vignati.
And today we have a special guest. Andrew, do you want to do the honors?
Yeah, so we're joined today. We get the pleasure of being joined by Ian Hebert, strength and conditioning coach and nutritionist, works with fighters. Thanks for coming on, Ian.
Thanks so much for having me, lads. It's my pleasure.
So I've known you for, how long have I known you for now?
I was thinking about that. I think 2019, we first started training together at Hard Knocks Everett.
It might have been 2020, I think.
Yeah, around then. Yeah.
Because it was like right after COVID, I think.
That's it. Yeah. Time moves weird around then. It all kind of blurs into one.
Yeah, I remember like one of my fondest memories. It is not that fond, but I remember one of my memories of you is we were sparring one day, and then I guess I was probably going a little too hard, and then you can you chill out? And that was the first time anyone's ever told me to relax, and I felt so bad after. I was like, oh,
because I was fighting for my life against this 230-pound mega athlete, and I'm here 155 pounds. Man, I suck at Muay Thai. This guy is way better than me, and he's huge.
But I was just having it was cool to have somebody because at that time there was not really anybody there who was good, and you were good, and so I was I was just having fun. Wasn't even thinking about oh, maybe I'm going too hard. I remember I walked home, and then I was like, oh man, I'm such an asshole.
The shame.
So yeah, I did a walk of shame home.
Dude, we've all been there where it's oh, that was such a productive day of sparring, and then everyone else is God, that guy was in a bad mood that day. What did I do to piss him off?
Yeah, I was so sad. That was the fondest memory. I mean, there's obviously other memories, but that was this one pivotal moment that was oh, okay, chill the fuck out. That was something that I really remember, just training with you back then.
It's funny because I would say sparring etiquette is a really difficult thing for people to address, and it's very hard because Muay Thai means something different to every single person, right? So not everyone that's there is a competitor. Even if you are a competitor, you might be in a competitive mood or in competitive season, and it's very hard to have a gym where people gel in such a way where the competitors can play nice with the non-competitors, but also still get in productive work. And the main thing is communication is hard. Yeah. Coaches can be really good at skill-based stuff, but not really good at setting a good environment for sparring. It's something that I think about actually often is how do we integrate the more novice people into sparring in such a way that's very productive for them and safe for them, but also useful for the people that are a bit more skilled. And it's never going to be perfect, but yeah, sometimes you just got to tell your friends, hey man, I don't want to get mega CTE. I'm dumb enough as it is. I need to retain the 2 brain cells I have so I can talk to people about how to eat good and maybe lift some weights in the process.
I mean, we were looking over just your website, your about you, and I didn't know that you started in 2018. You started doing this in 2018.
Yeah. So I finished college in Ireland in 2015. My degree's in music and history, funnily enough.
It's kind of crazy too. So what did you do music-wise? What were you doing?
Guitar. So when I went to college, I wanted to be a pro musician. And then when I left college, I wanted to be a pro fighter. And, neither has happened. So here I am. But what kind of helped me a lot with martial arts was the fact that when you learn how to play an instrument, it takes a lot of repetition, but it's not just crappy practice. It's very dedicated, thoughtful practice, which is the same as, think of the 2 students that are in your class, the one that comes in and they never really think about getting better. They just show up all the time. They get a bit better, but they kind of stagnate. As compared to the student that's very okay, this week I'm going to work on my cross. I'm going to work on keep my elbow tight. I'm going to work over turning at the last second. And now I'm going to apply it in these ways. So same thing with music. I had a great guitar teacher who was when I was 15, he was you're pretty good, but imagine if you were actually practicing correctly. And I was damn, that hurts, but it helped a lot. But I took up martial arts when I was 17 because I got my teeth knocked out in a school fight. And it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me in one sense. Started with karate from then, and this all ties back, long ass story, into I went to Boston for just a manual labor job in 2015. Liked living in America. It's better money. The weather's a lot better than Ireland, to say the least. 2018, I came back from Thailand. It was my second trip there, and I was broke as hell. And I was like, I'm going to make this work. So I started working in a title boxing club. And I had no idea, like, we don't have boxercise like that in Ireland, or at least we didn't back then. Like, all the martial arts that I'd done at that point were like for fighting. So I go into title and I'm like, I have a few fights. Like, I've been training for a while. I think I might be okay enough to maybe teach some people. And I go in there for a class and it's all like soccer moms and like people that just wanted boxing to get fit. And I'm like, oh, that's cool because these people aren't insane. Like people that want to fight. So I can actually work with these people.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I got into this industry in 2018, just like working with people that wanted to learn the sport of boxing and the art of boxing and Muay Thai, but like they didn't necessarily want to compete. The ones that I trained that did actually like, oh, I want to take this further. I want to start sparring. I want to start doing other stuff. Then I would, go to other gyms with them. But yeah, that kind of helped build my experience of working with all populations. And frankly, when you work with a lot of combat sport athletes, they're black belts in their martial art, but they're white belts in terms of a lot of other athletic pursuits. So not that different from normal gen pop.
What kind of music do you like to play? I'm a bit of a guitarist myself, actually.
I used to be super into like a lot of metal stuff. I used to write a lot of music as well. So yeah, a lot of Meshuggah, a lot of progressive metal.
Love
but I also used to like a lot of like acoustic stuff as well, like Andy McGee, like really chill acoustic. Nowadays I try and listen to a lot of stuff. But yeah, no, I can't tell you the last time I picked up a guitar. There's a point in my life where I will again, probably when I'm, not competing or, training as much. But it taught me a lot of super valuable lessons about training and learning in general. And frankly, it helps me a lot as a communicator to help people do things that I need them to do in a comprehensive and easy manner. Because if you're playing music with people, it's not a dictatorship. You can't just scream at the drummer like, you missed the beat, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Which same thing when you're working with athletes, like, oh man, like you didn't eat enough protein, you suck. Like that's not very productive either.
Yeah, I think that's my biggest problem too. We were talking about that before you joined us. Just like our
Protein.
problems with protein, just our problems with nutrition, our problems with like recovery, our problems with like anything that has to do with not fighting. That's like what we were talking about.
It's
like,
so common, man. It's like again, like everyone that I work with is like generally really successful at like a lot of things in life, not just fighting. But nutrition and strength and conditioning, they're skills just like any other skill. So like you might be, a shit hot accountant that's really good at boxing, but you can't figure out protein without some help, and that's totally okay. We're like, I'm not good at tons of stuff. I'm kind of only good at like 3 things. But yeah, man, it's hard. It's a lot of lifestyle factoring. It's a lot of food environment stuff. There's so much more to nutrition than just like eating right. That's almost like the lowest level stuff. That would be like kind of telling your fighters, hey, the easiest way to win a fight is to knock them out.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, okay.
yeah, that makes sense, buddy. But how?
Yeah. So speaking of how, so like if the lowest level is just eating right, what would be like the next level above that then? Or like what would be like the progression to actually having proper nutrition?
Yeah. So if you wanted to make a super broad statement about what is eating right for broad populations, athlete or non-athlete, protein balance is probably the easiest way to start with people. Because it's the highest yield on return on investment, right? If you have all your other things correct, like I time my carbs really well, I get enough sleep, I eat enough micronutrients, but I, only eat 20 grams of protein a day. You're doing all the minor stuff really well, but you're not getting the big hitters.
Yeah.
Protein is vital for body composition. So when it comes to putting on muscle mass or retaining the muscle mass that you have, protein is super important. So if you think of like the average American who's sedentary, like does an office job, doesn't walk enough, barely exercises, if they have insufficient protein, they're probably going to be filling up in the other macronutrients, which is their carbs and their fats. And the problem with that is carbs and fat are fuel, whereas protein we don't really use as fuel. We don't really like eat chicken breast and then it helps us run faster or, perform athletically better. Carbohydrates do that and fat can do that as well. So protein is kind of there to repair your body and kind of build things. But if you're only putting fuel in the tank and then you're not repairing or building anything with that fuel, that's a bit silly. Or if you're only putting fuel in the tank and then never actually doing any exercise, that's also not ideal, right?
Yeah.
But protein is the easiest place to start with people. And then second to that, I would say is structure. And people don't like that answer because they want me to tell them like, you have to eat this.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
meal timing and meal structure and stability in your food environment is so much more important, because it's the same idea as like, hey, Lavelle, what time are you going to train? And Monday through Friday, 6 o'clock. Where is
Yeah.
it? The gym. I know where it is. I know what it's going to be. What if I was like, hey man, your training is going to be 4 o'clock tomorrow, 7:30 on
Yeah.
Tuesday. Oh, and the
Yeah.
gym actually moves location. And some days, the gym is going to be underwater. And then the other
Yeah.
day, the gym is going to be like in, a different town. You'd be like, well, I
Yeah.
can't do this. It's crazy. But we treat our meals like that all the time too. We just kind of get in food whenever we can. And like that lack of structure can really kill people.
And I feel like that was like the biggest problem because like I worked with you. Like I tried to work with you. I'm not gonna
Full
lie. I did.
disclosure.
Yeah, for full disclosure, I did because like again like I was like, okay, I'm a pro now. I should take this more seriously, and I did it. I feel like I did a terrible job. Like I was telling them how bad I was, and like how unfocused I was, but I feel like you did a good job of like you were saying before of like not making it like you're yelling at me because I'm not doing
No.
things correctly, or like making it seem like it's like a dictatorship. So I do appreciate that, but like it made me feel bad because I felt like I was letting you down because you were so like you were so good. You're so kind about it. And then I was like,
But you know what? That's kind of the secret,
yeah,
because a pot of honey attracts more than a pot of vinegar, right?
it's true. Yeah,
So
it's
if
true.
I can have people reflect on working with me and say, hey, like that was positive and I
Yeah.
understand what I needed to do better, but I couldn't quite manifest it at that time, I at least kind of gave you some idea of what you need to do in the future to either work with me or work without me and work by yourself to improve it, right?
Yeah.
You're very typical of most athletes, pro or not pro, is you guys are so good at the output. You're so good at the training. You're so good at the fighting. You're always going to do that stuff. But when it comes to the recovery, when it comes to the making sure you have the fuel in the tank, that's the type of stuff that you can't just tough your way through. That takes a bit
Yeah.
of strategy, and that takes a lot of planning and like lifestyle management. You can't do 100 speed kicks your way through like protein balance, right?
Yeah.
Because
That's true.
getting in shape for a fight is like, fuck, like the fight's in a month. I just got to like put my nose down. I know training is going to be hard. It's going to be horrible. It should be hard, but I'll make it through so I can get to the fight. You can't tough man your way through nutrition. That's just not a good way of doing it.
Yeah. Like I was mentioning to them too. Like I was saying like I feel like the biggest issue that I've always had was like I never had the foundation there. And so, but the problem is without the foundation, I'm still winning. So I never had to like sit down and build upon the foundation.
Yeah.
So like even when like I didn't follow like even though I didn't like follow the plan you gave me, I still won the fight. So like I was like I have no lesson learned. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh yeah, I can still do whatever the fuck I want because there's no consequences. And that's such bad habits to have.
Athletes are the best cheaters you will ever work with. So as someone who is not a A+ athlete, I had to learn how to do things very meticulously. If you ever talk to my coach about his experience watching me do like ladder drills, I'm the most spastic looking dude he's probably ever seen, right? But to my credit, if you teach me something and I don't get it straight away, which I probably won't, I am going to go home and I'm going to practice it. And then the next day when I do it, I can do it. That's the same thing as learning a very difficult piece of music. Or it's the same thing as like, hey, I want to get stronger in the gym. What do you have to do? Well, you have to practice. You have to break it down. You have to put in the reps until you get it right. Good athletes can skip a lot of steps that like mediocre athletes can't. That's often why sometimes you notice like the best coaches weren't always the best fighters as compared to the best fighters that like you ask them, hey, how exactly do you do this technique? And they're just like, what them? I'm like, no, can you break it down step by step? And they're like, yeah, they just do it. And I'm like, that's all right, man. I'll just go figure it out.
That doesn't help at all.
But in terms of like how you work with me, what you're very typical of is that a good athlete that didn't have good structure to their meals, you still managed to balance the books enough that your training was productive enough that you could then fight and win. I don't work with people last minute for weight cuts because in general, that's a kind of terrible idea. A lot of people will come to me like the week of a fight and say like, hey buddy, I'm 14 pounds over and I'm fighting in 5 days. Can you help me? And at that point, I'm like, no, because I have no idea like how you got there. I don't know how well you listen. I don't know how well you take feedback or how important this is to you. Whereas like for you and I, like we were talking about it for at least 2 weeks before we even started doing something. And then like it was like a 6-week process that we were going through. I need that bit of time to work with people so they can make mistakes. And then I can kind of course correct them and be like, okay, I know you're not going to get in the 200 grams of protein, but can you at least get 150?
Yeah.
I know you're not going to get your carbohydrate timing perfect before your training, but are you going to be able to at least bring, you know, a liquid IV in your bag and like put that into your water for training, et cetera, right? If you work with people for long enough, you kind of temper your expectations from, you know, this is perfect, this is optimal. I want you to do all these things 100%. And in reality, people might give you 80, some people might give you 50. And then you have to make sure what you tell them, if they only do 50% of that, it's still probably going to be good enough to have the outcome that you need. There's a little bit of trickery involved in coaching as well.
Yeah. So is there like a, I mean, obviously we always want 100% from our athletes, but like, is there like a specific number that you're looking for? Like you said, 50 to 100, like, is there like a number like, okay, this is the number that at least I feel like is, I would say optimal, but like
Are we
where
talking
you,
about protein in particular or what are we talking about?
let's start with protein. Like just like,
Sure.
if we're talking about nutrition, yeah, what would be the number that you're looking for somebody who like,
Yeah, I can break this down pretty easily. So easiest way for anyone to look at protein balance per day, 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. You're a 150-pound dude, 150 grams of protein. That is optimal. You
okay,
don't just do that on the days that you're working out. You do that all the bloody time. If you give me 0.8 of a gram instead of that 1 gram, it's fine. No hassle.
yeah,
Sometimes that's optimal. If you're trying to gain some mass, it might actually be better for you to lower the protein intake slightly so you have more room for carbohydrates and fats and the calories can go up. Whereas if you're in a caloric deficit, like you're losing weight for a fight, I'm going to make your protein go up. And
yeah,
why? Well, because I need your body composition to stay as positive as possible. So if you start losing muscle mass in a weight loss phase, that makes your health worse. That also makes your weight cut worse. That's a
yeah,
pretty bad place to be, right? So your protein actually needs to be a little bit higher. But also protein is very filling, and being hungry all the time sucks. It's miserable. So you don't really want people to feel, you know, starving. So protein really helps with that too. Again, you start with protein with people that tends to take care of it. Fat tends to ride with protein. You use fat as a fuel source, but
yeah,
not for the high intensity stuff. You use fat for the rest and digest stuff. So we're all sitting down now. Your body should be using more fat as a fuel rather than carbohydrate, because this is not, hopefully, high intensity stuff. If your heart rate is like 180 talking to me right now, you probably
I'm
need to go to the hospital, man.
super nervous right now.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're either sprinting or you're on a load of cocaine. Good for you if so. But fat is pretty easy to get in the sense that if you're omnivorous, like you eat all meats tend to contain some fat in them as well, and you can get that pretty easily. Fat is very calorie dense, so it's generally something that I toggle with people when they're trying to lose weight. So that can be pretty easy from like, hey, you have a full fat yogurt, I'm going to change you to a Greek yogurt, which is a 0 fat. Or if you use chicken thighs all the time, you might use chicken breast instead. There's loads of ways to reduce fat. But if you somehow were to have 0 grams of fat per day, you'd really put your health in a pretty bad place pretty quickly. Super important for in the weed stuff that your cells need to stay healthy. It's just really important for your health in general, right? So you can't nuke fat. That's going to be super bad for you. 40 grams a day minimum is like the least that I've ever heard any dietitian recommend for people. But more often than that, it's like 60 something would be the minimum that most people can do. Carbohydrate is the interesting one. That's the one that you tie to performance the most. And that's the one that also we influence the most for weight manipulation. So carbohydrates are pretty unique in that sense. It's like your rocket fuel. Should you be using a lot of carbohydrates right now to talk to me? No, that's what fat is for. If you're going to train tomorrow morning super hard, you're going to use a shitload of carbohydrates. You need to have carbohydrates in the tank in order to use those carbohydrates. So if you're very low on carbohydrates going into your training, your training is not going to be as good. So that's why it's important to have carbohydrates pretty much with all of your meals, just to keep your carbohydrate stores kind of topped up the whole time. If your training is high intensity. If your training is low intensity, like you're just going in and shadow boxing and like, barely hitting the bag, you're just fucking around, you don't need to have like 150 grams of carbohydrate before you go hit the gym. That's way too much. You might be fine having zero. But if you're like, hey, I'm going to train for 2 hours in like fight camp, carb up. Absolutely carb up before your training, and then have carbohydrates after your training so you can put some fuel back in the tank so you can train again later.
Yeah, Ian, you mentioned timing of carbohydrates.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, can you speak a little bit more about that? Is it, I guess you already said like a little bit after, maybe, if you're going to train really hard, maybe have some extra the night
Yep.
before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How do you time that? And is there like a kind of a goal you're trying to reach in that regard as well?
Yes, carbohydrates are stored mainly in the muscle. It's called glycogen. So when you hear about muscle glycogen, that's what they're talking about. It's a stored form of glucose. If you use it, it goes away. If you don't use it, it sits there. The rest of the carbohydrate that we intake is like kind of stored in the liver. That doesn't seem that important, but it kind of is, right? Because if you go into your workouts fasted, you are generally going to be lower on glycogen and glucose. So now all of a sudden you need a lot of fast energy, but you don't have anything to tap it from. Your liver can't just like spit out a load of carbohydrate, or not carbohydrate. Your liver can't spit out a load of glucose like immediately. It takes time. That's actually what fat is useful for, but you can't do that immediately. So if you like, shit, I did not eat last night and I'm training at 6 a.m. in the morning and I'm hungry, you could have a Gatorade during your training and you still wouldn't have enough carbohydrate in the system to actually make that as productive as possible. It is better than not doing that, but it's still not enough. So you need to time your carbohydrates before you work out. 3 hours before is a really good amount of time to get some carbohydrate in the system. It can be 5 hours before, that's totally fine as well. The closer you get to your training, the carbohydrates that you intake should be a little bit different. When you think about fibrous carbohydrates, like think about like your veggies, your, stuff with skin on it, like nuts and stuff like that. Nuts kind of high in fat too, but you get the idea. Stuff that we don't digest very well. You don't want to have that just before training. One, you're going to blow up the room and no one's going to like you. You're going to be Mr. Stinky. And two, it's not a super useful form of energy, right?
Yeah.
So if you're 3-ish hours out from your training, have your sweet potato, have your broccoli. That's going to be really good for a bunch of different things. And it's going to give you some carbohydrate in the system, but don't have that just before you train. The closer you get to training, easier to digest carbohydrates. Think of your fruits like a mango, bananas, berries, Gatorades, stuff like that is really useful. And then what about carbohydrate timing after? That's also super important. You have all the carbohydrate being stored in the muscles. You just spent it all. You're at like a negative amount. You just need to put it back in so you can train again. Ideally, I want everyone to have a balanced meal with all their meals. And most of the time that kind of happens. Like no one ever just sits at home and like, oh, I only eat carbohydrate. Like that's not realistic. Or I only eat,
My wife
like,
does that actually.
if you're sitting at home and you're just like snorting lines of whey protein, then sure.
So
Like, yeah,
what happens?
I only eat protein.
What
Or
happens
like
the
drinking olive oil.
Yeah, but what happens if you have more carbohydrates than like? So that's the problem I have. I'm not eating nearly enough protein. Mostly eating carbs and fat and like sugar and shit like that. I'm eating the bad shit, and like
Okay.
I find it hard for myself to like eat that much. Not so I probably can buy like protein powders and stuff like that. I don't have that. That's probably would be an answer. But like I eat protein. Like, so one thing too, just to like add on to it, I don't eat meat. I eat fish, but I don't eat like chicken. I don't eat beef. I don't eat like
Pescatarian.
any. Yeah, pescatarian essentially. And so
My
like when I'm,
wife is pescatarian,
yeah,
and it's not that difficult to get your protein numbers in being pescatarian.
yeah,
Vegan, that takes a bit more thought.
okay,
Pescatarian, you're pretty okay. It's a bit
just eat more
harder.
fish.
Fish is going to be your main source, but you would still have your plant sources of protein as well.
Yeah,
If you're okay with whey, that's a great option. Whey is generally kind of the gold standard for protein intake. you'll hear stuff about like BCAAs, they're called branched chain amino acids, and complete versus incomplete proteins. Leucine is one of the better proteins that you can have to maximize how much muscle you can essentially like put on, and
Yeah.
you do the highest amount of leucine in whey protein. So whey protein is really good. Animal protein is really good. If you're vegan and you're listening to this like, oh, I'm doomed. No, you're not. Like, you can have incomplete sources of protein like pea protein, rice proteins, and it's probably going to be fine as long as you have enough of it. Protein is hard to do, right? Because it's very filling.
Yeah.
If you gave someone 400 calories of donut, they could eat that pretty easily. If you gave someone 400 calories of, cod or tuna, you'd be like, oh, I'm really full. And you still have, the other 200 calories of it left to eat, right?
Yeah.
Which is great in terms of weight loss. You want someone to feel more full when they're dieting, but it's harder when you have someone bigger like yourself that needs to get in like a lot more protein than like a 150-pound person.
Yeah.
It's hard to feel that full from all the protein. So drinking your protein can actually be super useful in that regard. But you asked, like, what happens if you consume too much carbohydrates and fats and you don't do enough activity for it?
Yeah.
So carbohydrate sits in the muscle or it goes to the liver. And your liver is like, sick, I have all this energy, I need to like put it somewhere. I can put it in the muscle. And the muscle is like, I'm full, go away. Yeah. So the liver's like, okay, this is a problem. What if I put it over here and kind of forget about it for a while? That's how we turn excess carbohydrate into fat. Now, remember, we also use fat as a fuel source. So you can kind of reverse that process and take that body fat that's stored and eventually turn it back into glucose. And then you can use that for exercise, which is great. That's why essentially you will never have someone who could like be at 0% body fat. It's just like we're always kind of trying to like balance the books in terms of how much fat that we have. We're under caloried, we'll burn some fat to get some energy going. We have enough calories, cool, we're gonna like stay normal. Or we have too many calories, we'll just make more fat and hopefully one day balance the books. But that's what happens to carbohydrate and just calories in general. When you have too many of them, it's going to get stored as adipose tissue or fat. And eventually it kind of needs to be taken away and used and burned. That's how you essentially like lose body weight, but that's also how you can change your body composition, which is not the same as losing body weight.
And so what's like the most
opposite problem? I
you eat too much
I
protein?
often focus too much on the protein, and then go to train, and I feel like I'm about to die, like low energy,
not enough carbs.
Yeah, and I've upped my carbs recently, and it felt a lot better. And I'm like, oh man, nice. I really need this.
I will say carbohydrate phobia is like still very real for a lot of combat sport athletes.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I mean, it's not funny because like a lot of it comes down to like disordered eating thinking and body dysmorphia, which is obviously not cool. But it's funny when you look at the math of these things. Like 1 gram of carbohydrate is roughly 4 calories. That's super low. 1 gram of protein is 4 calories. Super low. 1 gram of fat is 9 calories. So if your diet is very high in fat, your calorie consumption is likely going to be a little bit higher and harder to control. Whereas if your diet is actually higher in protein and carbohydrate, you could be getting in more food for less of a calorie amount. So carbohydrates don't make you fat. The only thing that makes you fat is eating more calories than you expend over time. People freak out about this because they look at the scale every day and be like, I gained 2 pounds, those that 2 pieces of bread that I have, that ruined me. And it's like your physiology does not move that quickly. Like your scale weight should change up or down, 2 to 4 pounds per day, and that's totally fine. That's just noise.
And is that glycogen related in the case of carbohydrates?
Correct. Yeah. So when you're talking about weight cutting, we store glycogen in the muscles and we use carbohydrate to top that up. When we are in the weight cut week and we're 3 days out or so from making weight, we reduce our carbohydrate intake. So if you have someone that's having 300 grams of carbohydrates per day, you drop them down to 50, they're going to lose 4 or 5, 6 pounds pretty easily, especially if they have a lot of muscle mass. Because remember, glycogen is stored in the muscle. If you have a lot of muscle, you have more room for glycogen, which is why combat sport athletes need to lift weights. It makes your body composition better, which helps you cut weight easier and have a bunch of other advantages that, like, who doesn't want to have more muscle? There's no disadvantage to having more muscle as compared to, you know, more body fat.
Yeah.
So yeah, like carbohydrate intake will impact your scale weight. That's why if you go into a heavy ass workout, deplete your glycogen, use all your carbohydrates, and then don't put them back in, yeah, you're definitely going to be down some scale weight compared to the day before. The problem is what happens when you need to work out again and you don't have the carbohydrate in the system.
So my question about that too is just like, if we're talking about weight loss and like,
Mhm.
so I know you're talking about like cutting weight for a fight, but like overall weight loss, how do you know it's real weight loss versus water weight? Is it just how fast it returns, or like how would you tell the difference between that?
That's a great question. So again, like scale weight is super difficult to look at every day without going crazy. That water that you and I just drank would
Yeah.
change your scale weight. If I finish this as about a liter of water, that would put on like 2 pounds on me if I
Yeah.
chugged it fast enough, right? So if you look at scale weight all the time, it's a ton of data that's very noisy, and you have two approaches. I either take a bunch of noisy data and extrapolate a trend from it, or I only weigh someone in, you know, once to twice a week and then kind of figure it out from there.
Okay.
Scale weight moves pretty quickly. Body composition does not change quickly at all. So if I have a client who is trying to increase muscle mass, they're not trying to, you know, like gain too much weight. They're not trying to lose too much weight. They're just trying to put on muscle mass, and they haven't lifted weights before. They might be able to put on like a pound of muscle a month for the first, you know, few months if they're very untrained. You can't do that forever, because if you had Ronnie Coleman put on a pound of muscle per month, he would have been like 1,000 pounds, you know, or just pure beef. Which is, think of that like fat as well. Your body fat percentage does not change overnight,
Yeah.
but it will change pretty quickly if you're very unfit. If you have a man who's 40% body fat and he's somehow able to do a lot of exercise and he's able to hold to a really, you know, strict diet and a calorie deficit, he could probably blow through his body fat percentage pretty quickly as compared to like a 15% body fat male who, you know, does train a decent bit. Because he has so much less body fat, it's a lot harder for him to go from 15 to 14% than it would be from like 40 to 37% body fat. You need, generally, I look at these things in like months rather than weeks. If you're untrained, you will have faster results. And remember, most combat sport athletes do not really hit the gym very often or like very consistently. I would not be surprised to see some guy take, you know, a 4-month off season and just lift a lot of weights while training Muay Thai and put on like, you know, 3 to 4 pounds of muscle. That would not surprise me at all. A super jacked pro athlete who has been hitting the weights for a while, even if he took, you know, 4 months off and like naturally lifted weights, he's not putting on 4 pounds of muscle. That would be insane.
Interesting.
Time is the biggest thing that people don't want to hear. But unfortunately, to change your body composition, that stuff does not happen overnight. Scale weight, easy to manipulate. Body composition, give me months.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about electrolytes. And,
Sure.
you know, I think a lot of people are taking to having a little electrolytes after training.
Mhm.
And I've noticed in some of the different ones, there's like different balances of sodium, potassium, magnesium, all these
Mhm.
different things. You know, and I guess like what would you say is ideal in that regard? And are people kind of, is it overkill to do something like that, or is it really
Mm.
necessary?
That's a great question. So electrolytes, yeah, so you have sodium, potassium, magnesium, chloride. They help retain fluid balance in the body. Fluid balance is super important because it regulates how hydrated you are. So your kidneys really are important for that. Your blood pressure matters for these types of things too. So it's like a crucial component to staying alive. Your body has a lot of redundancies built into it, so you don't die if your electrolyte balance were, you know, temporarily lower than what it should be. If your electrolyte balance is severely off, like let's say you are hypokalemic, which is your potassium is very low, you will start to have like changes in your heart rate, and that could send you to the hospital. So electrolyte balance is like very very tightly regulated, and it will change quickly, or relative terms quickly, if you are a heavy sweater.
Interesting.
That's what influences your kind of overall hydration rate. And how do you have someone sweat more? You have them exercise profusely in a hot, humid environment. And they generally don't get enough fluid in during that time. So I am all for people using electrolyte powders and drinks in general. If you look at Gatorade and stuff like that, they have a lot of sodium in them. And the reason that a lot of these drinks kind of are higher in sodium is because sodium kind of helps you retain water. It basically just helps you get fluid back into the cell. That's like kind of in the weeds stuff of doing it, but like a TLDR is like we manage sodium, potassium, and kind of glucose in really tight little niche things. And when you're working out very fast, your body has to balance this stuff very, very, very quickly. So it's going to want to prioritize keeping water in certain places that it needs to be. So you don't just, go into cardiac arrest or, the system breaks down. So a lot of the drinks that we consume that are sports beverages are specifically designed to help you in that process. If you are doing a weight cut and you are very dehydrated and you are very low on sodium, it is not a good idea to consume a ton of sodium straight after your weigh-in. Your balance of sodium is actually going to be quite off. So shoving in a million bits of sodium is just not going to help you in that moment. However, if you have someone who is a heavy sweater and they're working out in a hot, humid environment and they're struggling to get water into the system, if you see me ever work out in Thailand, I am disgusting. I bring 2 rash guards per training because I just don't want to be a dick to my pad holder. I am gross.
Yeah.
But I am getting tons of carbohydrates. I'm getting like 2 Gatorades in that. And I'm also probably going to do a liquid IV. And I need that because I am such a heavy, salty sweater that if I don't, my performance feels terrible. How do you know if you need more electrolytes? You feel kind of faint and shitty in your workouts when they're kind of prolonged, very sweaty workouts. Probably give some electrolytes a thought. They're not going to do anything negative for you, provided that you are actually quite active. And frankly, the people that are like, oh, salt is bad for your kidneys are really good at managing salt. That's like what they do all the time. If you have, chronic kidney disease, sure, my answer is going to be different for my 66-year-old client with a bunch of comorbidities. But, for an athlete that's training at a high level, don't skimp on your electrolytes because you think your kidneys are going to explode.
And something I got noticed too, like so we're talking about hydration. Like whenever I go to like fights and people were like cut weight and they go from being dehydrated, the first thing they start doing is chugging water and eating. And I've always been I've always been told like you want to make sure like you're hydrated first. So like what would be like, the proper way of rehydrating yourself? Like post weigh-ins or like post
That's
almost
a great question.
killing yourself.
Let me start this by saying what is the worst way of handling this situation. So the worst, and I see this at every single fight and tournament I've ever been to, it without fail. And these are the guys that will immediately go into the bathroom and throw up if they even make it that far. Get off the scale. They chug as much water as possible, like generally like a liter in like 2 minutes or so. Oh, I don't feel so good. Go to shove in a bit more water. It all comes back up. Vomiting is not good for your hydration levels. So you probably actually went from being dehydrated from a weight cut to even more dehydrated and you feel terrible. So a really good recommendation for people is like keep it to 1 liter of fluid per hour. That's a very conservative way of getting liquid back into the system in a way that's not going to make your guts just want things to come up from, the front end or the back end.
And am I just sipping it, or is it chugging? Like if it's 1 liter, am I just taking my time with it? Like how does it matter how I drink it?
What I would say is like your first 15 minutes after you weigh in is going to be the most psychologically difficult from just doing weight cuts and everything myself, right? Like you really want to chug. What I will do is like, okay, 500 milliliters of water. You're probably going to get that in your first 15 minutes. And you're going to be like, this is the best thing that I've ever had. After you do that fluid, whether it's, water or it's a Gatorade or something like that, go have some food. use that to kind of help balance you, like make you feel happy. Like go have a cookie. Like
Okay.
you earned that after a hard weight cut, do something that makes you happy and do
Yeah.
something that makes you feel a bit more sane, because you're less likely to make good decisions if you're just so amped up and like, I'm so thirsty, I need to chug all this water, I need to eat all this food. Like do something to bring yourself back to normality, and then you can start listening to your thirst cues a bit better and your hunger cues a bit better,
Okay.
because those cues are going like absolutely insane by the time they're on the scale. And also,
Yeah.
like, you also see everyone else just like drinking water and like eating food, and you're like, oh
Having
my
a good
God,
time.
like, please weigh me in so I can like be here.
Right. Yeah.
So your number one priority after you weigh in is always going to be hydration if you had to sweat in order to make weight. Not everyone has a massive weight cut, but provided that you actually had to, you had to lose at least 2% of your body weight using a sweat method, hydration is absolutely crucial. And the second to that is carbohydrate intake. Those are the two things I need to get into people ASAP, non-negotiable. Depends on what type of fight you have too. Do you have a
Yeah.
same day weigh-in? Okay, now carbohydrate intake is like beyond crucial, because you might not have that long to like get the carbohydrates back in. And why I kind of like harped on so much about like how your body uses carbohydrates is that it's so important when you have a same day weigh-in that you actually put enough carbohydrates back into where they need to be, that you actually go into your fight and feel like you have fuel. It's not good enough to be like, I haven't had carbs in 3 days and I got to go fight in 30 minutes. I'm
Yes.
going to have a Gatorade and I'll be good. It is not going to be sufficient.
And a quick
Um,
question, is that why
mhm.
like sometimes when you fight your legs feel heavy is because you don't have enough carbs in your body? So sometimes like yeah, that is
Could
that
be.
the reason? Yeah? Okay.
That
Like
that could
after a
be
wake up.
like, could also be fear and like an adrenaline dump too, which
Yeah.
like, that's just a psychological prospect of things. But yeah, like in general, I would say if your legs feel like lead
Yeah.
and you're not terrified, you're pretty confident going into that fight, you
Yeah, yeah.
probably just did not carb up enough.
Okay.
That's why when you have someone who's doing a tournament style where they have to weigh in multiple times per day, they can't have as dramatic a weight cut.
Yeah.
You're not going to hydrate yourself quickly enough, and you're not going to get the carbohydrates back in the system quickly enough. Like you need time for these things. If you have a same day weigh-in, what's generally better is to think about going up a weight class rather than fighting at like the weight class that you would fight at for like a 24-hour weigh-in, where we can push things
That's
a
good
little
to
bit
know.
more.
That's good to know. Cause like
Yeah,
I'm planning on USA Muay Thai. I'm contemplating if I should do it. I'm heavy right now. I hope you can see in my face. I'm a little fat.
You
But
look
like, I
great.
was like, should I thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. But I was like,
I think you look great, man. If you're worried about how your face looks, just grow the beard.
I gotta grow a bit more. But I was like, man, maybe I should just do heavyweight this year because like I'm not sure if I can like cut the weight for the like lower weight class. But you saying that has
Is
me,
it the one in Delaware?
yeah, it's the one in Delaware.
We did that 2 years ago. That's multiple day weigh-ins.
Yeah,
That one, I fought at 147 for that one. That's like, I
yes,
can make it to 140. I could potentially even go lower than 140 if I, was in the right place for it. I could not do 140 for multiple day weigh-ins. Like I do not have that ability while having a decent performance.
yeah,
So I would always say for athletes, like, hey, if you're worried about it, like, I would recommend fighting up rather than fighting down. Because at the end
bro,
of the day, right, it's like, it's a tournament. Like,
yeah,
you go in, you have fun, you win a fight, you lose a fight, whatever, man. Like, it's a much better thing than going into a fight severely compromised, getting the absolute ass beaten off you, taking damage, and great, now I can't fight for 4 months, and I had a horrible weight cut, and I
yeah.
lost a fight, and I got hurt doing it.
And you pay mad money for the tournament. Yeah,
And you pay money for the tournament. Yeah,
yeah,
like that's a much harder thing to justify for me rather than like, just like fight up a weight class and like get over. And also most of the time in these tournaments you have gear to wear too.
yeah,
So like at that point, dude, like that would just kind of be my thing, is like go into a tournament having fun. In general, in a fight, I think like go into a fight to have fun. It's not something that any of us in the West like have to do. It's
yeah,
not like Thailand in, the early days, like where people had to fight because their family kind of made them do it for money. We are privileged in the fact that we choose to do this because we love it. Like at that point, like do the best thing to make your body, work for yourself in the long term. Don't kill yourself with crazy weight cuts. And just know that like it's a privilege that you get to fight. Don't abuse your body in the process while doing a sport that is inherently super dangerous like what we do. But yeah, like in general, what I'd say is like what makes weight cuts very difficult for people is they don't really have a good strategy. And they want to tough man their way through a weight cut, and they have no plan for after the weight cut for how to rehydrate. So not only are they killing themselves making weight, they're not even putting themselves in a good position after the cut
Yeah.
to succeed in the fight. And a lot of that is just down to like a lot of skill coaches that are really, really good Muay Thai or boxing or MMA coaches
Yeah. Yeah.
don't have the knowledge in strength and conditioning. They don't have the knowledge in nutrition to handle
Yeah.
these things well. And if it's a small gym, you don't have someone that knows these types of things. You got to make your best judgment. I get it, but
Yeah.
you can't imposter syndrome your way through health.
Yeah, and I was about to say that too. Like, that's it. Like, whose fault is it really? Because, like, again, a lot of we were talking about this before. Like, a lot of coaches, like, they don't know the science behind it. They don't really know what they're talking about, and they kind of just
Mm.
wing it, or like what they used to do back in the day. And so you're getting a bunch of information that's like technically not true or relevant, or like is outdated. And so these fighters are putting their health on the line for stuff that doesn't work. You know? So like,
Yeah. And like at the end of the day, like I think people respect you a lot more if you're someone who will admit when you don't know something and you're going
yeah,
to look into it, or admit that you don't know it and you need to get help from somewhere else,
yeah,
versus I'm going to figure this out on the fly and then, put my fighter in a dangerous position. Because at the end of the day, man, weight cuts, when they go wrong, they can put people in the hospital. Like it's the most dangerous part about weight cutting is heat. It's not the dehydration. Dehydration isn't really what tends to put people in the hospital. It's excessive heat
yeah,
on top of dehydration. Um, so like when you see these fighters like 3 days before weigh-ins, like they're running with a sauna suit on, or they're in the infrared sauna shadow boxing with a sauna suit on. And it's like, my guy, like this kid doesn't need to cut this weight for 3 days. Why are you stressing the system for
yeah,
no return on investment? Like it's just punishment. And also, even if you do that with someone, they're still water loading. So you might make them lose 4 pounds, and then they still have another 2 liters of water to drink after that. You ended up pretty much in the same place, except your
yeah.
body is now stressed out from the heat.
Makes sense. Yeah,
That's just a rant that I have, but God, that one kills me the most. Is like,
it's aggravating. It's aggravating. It's
yeah,
yeah, because I remember just like being like I remember like just like back in the day, like having to wear the sauna suits, and you're just like and it would be like 2 weeks out from a fight, and they have you in this hot ass sauna suit doing the entire class in a sauna suit. Like, why am I in this hot ass suit? And it makes no sense. And then, like it's like yeah,
to be generous to that strategy, I would say it is useful if you need to heat acclimatize someone. So let's say you're about to go to Thailand for a camp, and like the heat and the humidity there is so much more than where you currently train. It might kind of be worth your time training in a temporarily hotter environment, just to
yeah,
acclimatize yourself to that heat. So when you actually do train there, it's not going to kill you as much. But what happens to your training performance when you are too hot? It's significantly hampered.
yeah,
Your heart rate goes through the roof because you're trying so much harder to keep your core temperature lower that your output will just drop.
yeah,
So heat is really not beneficial to performance to a certain point, right? Like having someone like an ideal temperature, yeah, everything's good. The room is too cold, obviously that's not good. The room is too hot, that's not good.
yeah.
But yeah, in terms of like weight cutting and stuff like that, like people love to jump the gun about, I'm going to try and lose all this weight so early. So I'm going to jump in the sauna, going to put the sauna suit on and go run and do all this shit. And it's like, you're doing this 5 days out. Like you're doing nothing but like really stressing out your system when it honestly needs to relax before the really hard stuff happens.
Like one thing I noticed too, like a lot of beginners, like they'd be like 1 or 2 pounds over, and they're stressing about 1 or 2 pounds. It's like, hey, just chill, all right? You're 1 pound over, like relax. It's not as bad as you think. It's just like, and I think it just comes with the territory, like of not knowing
Yep,
like how to properly do it, or not having somebody in your corner who properly can show you like what to do, and like
exactly.
and what would you like recommend? Again, not everybody is lucky enough to have someone like you or have people who know what they're doing. So like if you're somebody who doesn't have someone in your corner who like studies this stuff or is an expert in this field, like how do you go about properly finding this, or how do you go about properly cutting weight, or like learning about this?
Sure. I'll give you the very easy way of thinking about weight cuts right now that's applicable to everyone.
Give us the
The
sauce. We need it.
numbers are going to be different person to person, and that's when it can be worth actually talking to someone about this. But here's the broad overview. He's freaking out. If you're doing a 24-hour weigh-in, you can have a larger weight cut than a same-day weigh-in.
Okay.
If you have a 24-hour weigh-in, the things that you are going to manipulate in this order is going to be fluid. So that's the water loading. It's going to be carbohydrate intake, sodium intake, and fiber intake. Those three, sodium, fiber, carbohydrate intake, you can manipulate 3 days out. It could be slightly more if you're a little bit over. It could be slightly less if you're pretty confident about it. But generally 3 days out is pretty good. And then finally, the things that you manipulate at the end are going to be meal timing. You want to have your last heavy meal around 24 to 12 hours before you actually hit the scale. Gives you more time to digest. And then it's the sweating. You have two ways of sweating. You have active or you have passive sweating. Active sweating is doing workouts. Passive sweating is, in the bath, hot tub, whatever, doing no work.
Yeah.
I tend to default to people not working out to help lose significant amounts of weight. But again, if you keep it reasonable, you hit pads super light, you go for a chill jog and you're fine with it, that doesn't matter too much. So those are your variables, right? It's fluid intake. That one is your water load. You will generally start with too much water. When you have too much water, your body is like, this is crazy. This is all this fluid. I can't hold on to this fluid. I need to pee more. I need to sweat more. I need to breathe more to get rid of some of this fluid. So you start with too much water, and then you gradually taper that water down as the week goes on. So you kind of end up in a state of hyperhydration before you go towards a state of more mild dehydration. A quick note on water loading: do not cut sodium when you start your water load. Sodium is very important as an electrolyte to manage just fluid balance in general within the cell. So if you wanted to potentially give yourself a stroke or a seizure, it'd be a really good idea to have way too much water and then zero electrolytes. So when you start doing your, heaviest water loading, keep the salt in your diet. That's the biggest PSA for health and safety right now. So again, you might start with someone with like 2 gallons of water and then gradually dip them down as the week goes on. If you do that correctly, your weight will go up because your fluid is so heavy. It's going to put on some weight on you. But as the week goes on, your weight will precipitously go down. That's part one. Carbohydrate, keep it super high during your camp. Fiber, keep it super high during your camp. Because when I have them high during camp and then I drop them low for the week of the weight cut, I have a massive return on investment. Mm-hmm. I have someone eating 30 grams of fiber a day. That's a pretty good number for your health. If you're male, it can be slightly less. If you're female, around 25 grams of fiber per day. When I drop them to sub 10 grams of fiber per day, that reduces the amount of stool that they have in their gut, the amount of poop that they basically hold on to, which decreases your weight. Fiber is great. You should have fiber all the time, just not 3 days before you fight. I reduce that. That might take a pound or two off someone. Carbohydrate is the same, except it's a much bigger effect. I have someone on 300 grams of carbs per day or whatever, drop them down to 50. By day 3, they might have lost 3 pounds just from carbohydrate reduction. That's massive. If I have someone who's 12 pounds overweight 1 week out from their fight, and they lost 1 pound from reducing fiber, 3 pounds from reducing carbohydrate intake, well, your weight cut's going to be so much better. Sodium, tend to reduce it the 3 days before. I hear mixed reviews on this. I personally recommend people have less than 500 milligrams of sodium per day for the last 3 days. Some people might say that you can keep it a bit higher than that. Undecided, as a general rule of thumb. Depends on the individual. 24 hours before you have that fight, you should know, 24 hours before you have that weigh-in, you should know how much you're going to need to lose in the sauna. And if you did it right, if you had a 12-pound weight cut, and you weigh in on a Friday, the Friday before, and you're 12 pounds over, you should know I have roughly 6 pounds that I got to get off in the sauna. And if you do the carbohydrate manipulation, the fiber manipulation, the water manipulation, the sodium manipulation, and the meal timing right, that's going to make your weight cut so much easier than if you only water load and don't do any of the other stuff. And then cool, I'm going to go get in the sauna and sweat for as many hours as possible, and I'm going to cut 10 pounds that way. That sucks.
Yeah,
That's a
guilty.
bad time.
Terrible. Yeah, terrible.
The
Yeah.
only difference in between same day weigh-in and 24-hour weigh-in is that you do not have time to get carbohydrates back in the system. So what you want to manipulate with them is going to be fiber. Low fiber diet, 3 days out. That's going to reduce some weight. Meal timing. Try and keep their last meal as far away as possible from their weigh-in time. You can still water load these people, not as much. You can
Yeah.
still reduce carbohydrate with these people, not as much. I wouldn't go less than 100 grams of carbohydrate with these people per day. That would not be a good idea. If you do 50 grams of carbohydrate or less with these people before the weigh-in, they're going to fight and it's going to be flat.
Question about the water loading
Mhm.
for like same day. So like
Mhm.
typically like for like a day before weigh-ins, it might be like what 7 to 8 day water load that you're doing like a week long or so if
7.
it's same day, same how many days out would you be doing for like a same day weigh-in for a fighter?
Same 7. You also might, because remember, if people are fighting up a weight class,
Yeah.
you might not actually need to quite,
I see.
water load
Okay.
as much.
Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
again, if I fight at 147 and I walk around at 155 pounds, that's a much different proposition than if if I walk around like 155 pounds and I have to get to 140. The parameters are a bit different there, but the water loading should be roughly the same.
No, that makes sense. So, and there's something else where like I kind of want to like change topics because like there's
Mhm.
things you're mentioning and like I get like the whole 30 grams of fiber, like the protein, but like I
Mhm.
have trouble structuring like actually hitting the numbers. So like
Mhm.
one issue I find myself having a lot is like so when I cook, I usually
Mhm.
just throw a bunch of shit in a pot, mix it together, and then I eat that. But like
Uh-huh.
how do I actually like measure what's there?
Mhm.
Guess like if I mix like fish with like
Mhm.
some broccoli and some type of sauce or like
Mhm.
rice and I just kind of mix it all together. I don't know the actual portion size of each thing individually, so I never really
Uh-huh.
know how to like track it properly. And I'm just like, fuck it, I don't feel like writing this down, figuring it out. So I'm just gonna just eat it and guess. And I feel like that fucks me up. So like, what would be like? How do you handle shit like that? Where like,
How do I teach someone how to track their calories?
yeah,
That's kind of what
essentially,
this question is, right?
yes,
Okay, so you always start with the easiest things first. I get people to increase their protein and I get people to track their protein at the same time, right? So I want people to be able to identify the protein sources within their meals. Takes a bit of
yeah,
education. Okay, so like you have a fish, great. That's your protein source. That's also a fat source, depending on what type of fish it is, too. That's great. That's good to know. Now, you can just go on Google and literally type in how many calories are in one tuna,
yeah,
and you will get an answer that could be vaguely accurate to absolutely batshit. But I tend to have people be like, hey, one salmon darn, how many calories are in that? Go on Google. You actually
yeah,
tell me how much it is. I know how much it is. I do this shit all the time. You tell
yeah,
me how much it is. And they're like, oh, it's this. And it's this many grams of protein, this many grams of fat. And I'm like, perfect. Go to your tracking app, put that in. You
okay,
save that. Most tracking apps like have a ability to save a recipe. Great.
yeah,
So you had one salmon darn, it was like an average size. That's how many calories we're working with. That's how many grams of protein.
okay,
You have 2 salmon darns, wonderful, great. You just multiply it. It's not that hard. Cooking for yourself is a much better way of regulating your body composition, but is much harder to track accurately. So it's starting with the protein source, and then you start with the other high calorie source. So that can be your fats and that can be your carbohydrates.
okay,
When people are like, oh, I put in some broccoli. How did you put in the broccoli? Oh, I, fried it in butter and I did all these crazy things to it. Okay, well then I'm going to track it. But if it's like,
yeah,
I threw in like a handful of mushrooms and like I, didn't put any crazy stuff on it, I'm like, whatever, don't track it.
yeah, okay,
Fine. Oh, what about the 2 tomatoes, the baby tomatoes I put in my omelet? I'm like, I don't care.
yeah, yeah,
But if you have an omelet that has, hey, I have potato in there. Ooh, I care about that. Was it a big
yeah,
potato? Yeah. You chop up the whole thing, you fried it up, or you fried it in oil? Okay. Yeah, I care about that now.
yeah,
So track the potato. 1 potato. How big was it? Medium, large, small. Medium, about the size of my hand. Okay. Mr. Google says it's around 200 calories. Wonderful.
yeah,
In the app. Oh, I used oil. How much oil? Tiny bit or a load? A load. I had to fry it. Okay, well, put in oil. Put in like, okay, I used canola oil. How much did I use? More than you think.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So now, like, what this ultimately gets to is like, how accurate do you need to be when you track? And The good news is you don't. Any study that has looked at how well people can self-report calories has shown consistently that people are terrible at reporting calories accurately. Even when you're using tracking apps, people don't tend to use these things very well. Part of it is because they don't want to admit it. Like, oh, I had a donut, I'm not going to put that in the app. The other part of it is the fact that people don't know how to track these things super well. Obviously, using a food scale would be super handy for these types of things. But for a lot of clients, I'm not going to make them do that. That could have a lot of negative, psychological impacts on people or time impacts. They don't want to do it. Fine. Easiest way around that, though, prepared foods. You go to Trader Joe's, you get a packet of like the white jasmine rice. It's going to tell you exactly how many calories are in that packet. You divide that packet into 2 portions. Great. 150 calories of rice. Easy peasy. You don't always want to just eat prepared foods. They're not going to be as micronutrient dense, and thus not as good for your health. But at least I know what the calories are in that.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. It makes sense.
But again, if people get their protein numbers where they need to be, that's going to solve a lot of downstream problems. You're not going to have someone feeling starving all the time if they're getting inadequate protein. And if you're not hungry, you're probably not going to want to overeat. You're probably not going to want to eat a ton of snacks and stuff at night. People tend to have worst food intakes when their food habits are terrible. So if you have no food structure, you don't know when you're going to eat throughout the day, you're liable to eat one massive meal at the end of the night. And because you like fasted all day long, your reward system is going to be like, you know what? I can have that extra little bit of ice cream because I was a good boy that didn't eat all day. When really you just didn't plan your life well.
Yeah. It's the issues I have. It's hard. It's the issues
It's
I
really
have
hard.
where like I'm just like I don't plan my eating at all. I'm not planning it. I'm like, okay, I'm kind of hungry. Let me eat something. And like if I don't have like things already prepped, I'm like, oh, whatever I can find together. I'm eating snacks. I'm eating candy. I'm eating a bunch of shit that like for a fighter I shouldn't be eating.
You plan your training throughout the week, Lavelle?
Do I plan my training? I don't plan anything.
Well, if I could give you and anyone listening to this a good piece of advice, you should plan your training on a Sunday for your week, and then you should plan your meals around your training.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to tell you what to eat. I'm actually going to shut up about protein for once.
Yeah.
But if you're like, hey, I'm training at 6 to 8, Monday through Friday, you should have lunch at like, okay, I'm going to have lunch at 1. I'm going to have my snack at 4. Going to have my dinner at 8:30 when I'm home, and I'm going to have my breakfast at 7 a.m. when I wake up. If you do that 5 days a week, I guarantee you're going to go the extra step to be like, well, if I already planned this, I may as well not eat complete crap.
Yeah, that's why. Okay, these are the gyms I needed. This is the stuff that like I need to hear because like I gotta get shape.
I always struggle with these types of things.
Yeah.
So I was a personal training manager at Equinox for a while, and I used to coach coaches. And the best way to have people know what is a good idea or not is to teach them a bit of the science. Your bullshit meter is going to be worse if you don't know the general parameters of things.
Yeah.
Most fighters are never going to know or frankly care about glucose metabolism and how your body stores onto it. And you don't have to. That's the great news. But if you are on Instagram and you're going to see like the glucose goddess who tells you that you have this magical little root that like makes your, pancreas like never secrete insulin and this makes you skinny. You should know enough to be like, that's stupid. And if I follow her advice, I am stupid and it will make me worse. And that it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to be stupid. It's just not okay to be wrong and stupid all of your life.
Yeah.
The more you kind of have a general parameter of knowledge, the harder it is to just pull the wool over your eyes. Same thing in martial arts. If you have someone that trains in a McDojo with a guy that's never had any fights or real combat experience, he's going to show you crazy, like death touch. Like, when some guy goes to punch me, I like grab his arm and I do this Aikido and I throw him. Yes,
Wait, that's not real.
I thought that was real. Broke my mic there. I wax on, wax off. When like you actually go to like a boxing gym and try that, you die. So, but that's the same thing for science. Yeah, it really is. So, you need to know enough about this just to not put yourself in worse positions, but you don't need to know any more than that. I find this stuff interesting. I dedicate a lot of my time to learning this because I just find it fascinating and cool. But
it is interesting.
It is interesting, but it's very hard to disseminate this information to people in a way that actually makes sense and is clear and is
Yeah.
actionable. So for the people that actually like took the time to listen to this call, if you only take away the 3 things from this, it's going to be this. 1, your body composition is really influenced by your protein intake and whether you lift weights. You need to eat enough protein irrespective of lifting weights, but if you want to put on some muscle, you have to hit the gym. And it's going to make your Muay Thai better. Trust me, do that. Number 2, don't be afraid of carbohydrates. You're doing a high carbohydrate intensive sport. If you are terrified of carbohydrates, you are holding your performance back if you actually want to be good at this and be any bit competitive. Carbohydrate is key for high performance sports. You absolutely need them. If you're afraid of them, you're afraid of being good at Muay Thai. And 3, the better you are at planning your life in terms of training and nutrition, the better outcome I think you'll have. That's a hot take, but I've never met someone who was really successful at Muay Thai who didn't have a clue when they were going to train this week. As much as you joke about doing that, Lavelle,
I
I
know.
know that you're going to be training multiple times this week. You might be late,
Possibly.
but
Yeah.
you're going to show up, right?
I'm
The,
lazy. I just don't have structure. I don't have any structure. But yeah, I get what you're
and
saying. I get
that
what
would
you're
be a
saying.
good place to start.
Yeah.
And that applies to everyone, like
Yeah.
I've never met someone who is like too well organized in terms of these things.
I agree. Again, my biggest problem, and like, you remember, so I remember like I made some Instagram post, and I was like, how would I say? I asked people like what type of information they want to see from me. I remember somebody was like, "Oh, can you talk about like recovery and nutrition?" And I was like, you don't want to hear that from me. I am the wrong person to ask these questions. Like, I am the worst at it. But I'm glad we have somebody like you. So I'm like, hey, we have an episode just for you about this stuff.
Well,
But
listen, I'm glad people don't ask me what it's like to be a really successful pro fighter because I
I,
am not. That's when I
I
would defer
but
to Lavelle.
you're successful. Like, what is your record right now? Because you just won the title.
Yeah, I had that was a fun fight. I was thinking about that
Okay.
earlier today. I've had 13 Muay Thai fights. I had some boxing fights when I was in college. When I was in college, I competed a lot in like point karate and kickboxing
Yeah.
and stuff. So I've just done loads of martial arts. So yeah, at least 13 Muay Thai fights, 8 wins, 5 losses. Not a good
How's it?
record, right? But like
But it's not a
for
bad
me, I
record.
just enjoy doing the sport.
Like, that's not a bad record, and you're on a winning streak. Like, you just won. So like, how is that? Give yourself some credit. Like, like, yeah, don't be
Now,
harsh on yourself.
remember when I said I'm good at 3 things in life?
Hmm.
Giving myself credit is not one of those things.
Like,
But again, like we all have things to work on, right?
yeah, it's like, bro just won a title, ECF, right? You just won your ECF title. It's like, I suck. You just won his first circuit.
It was at a different promotion. I did one fight at ECF. That thing was
Oh, that
that
wasn't
was
it?
fun. That was a fun Muay Thai thing in a cage. The last one is at John's Boxing.
Okay, sorry. Like, I try to look up like your
No, you're fine.
topology.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah,
But no, I train. Listen, Two Bridges is a great gym to train at. I train with Stephen Carson. He's a current Freedom champ at 140. Janice Liu, double champ.
yes,
Janice Liu will like if she was my size male, she would probably have put me in a coffin by now. She
yeah.
is comically good. All
I
my
watched you fight
teammates are
TK.
absolute studs. Dylan Juco, the main fight coach that we have there, that guy is just it's like he's like a Terminator. He's
Yeah,
like his knowledge of Muay Thai is so high, his IQ is so high, and his execution is unbelievable. Justin is just an encyclopedia of this stuff too. He's so knowledgeable about application of Muay Thai, and he's so dedicated to actually making sure what you do is like fundamentally correct. Like
yeah,
I'm in a really good gym. Like I'm very happy where I am. My teammates rock. Like if you want to get good at Muay Thai, you got to be in a room like that, and you also got to be in there and have some days where you get your ass kicked. Like no one's ever going to be good at the sport if you're always the hammer.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And well, hopefully we can stop by. Hopefully we can come by and like
Please
train with
do.
you.
Yeah, that would be
Like,
dope,
that's
man.
where.
I'll you'll hit me in the belly, and I'm like, "Ooh, Lavelle, no, please go
No,
too
I
long.
mean, it's
You're
gonna be
too
different now.
hard."
Like, cause you trained in California, you've
Mhm.
Boston, now you're in New York, and like, I'm glad you're closer now. Well, I'm not in Boston at the moment, but like, I'm happy that like you're within like a certain. California's too far. At least if I go to New York, it's not that far. Can actually
California
stop
was
by.
that was tough. We went there for my my missus. She got her master's out there, so we moved
Yeah,
there for like 2-ish years, and trained at a really good gym out there. Like Jay, he was one of the coaches at Pacific Ring. He started his own club. That was really good. Made
Yeah.
some really good friends out there. Got me back into Muay Thai because when I went out there, I wasn't doing Muay Thai. I was just doing jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So that was fun. Got my blue belt, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna retire now and just go back to a real sport.
Yeah. Typical BJJ journey. Blue
Typical
belt or quit.
BJJ journey.
Blue belt
If
or
any
quit.
of them ever listen to this, they're gonna absolutely strangle me when they see me again. But no, like I'm super happy in New York. Whenever I get back to Ireland, I train at a great gym in my hometown in Ennis. The Irish Muay Thai scene is really popping off. Like the gym that I train at, Spartan Muay Thai, like the the coaching's great. They have so many fighters that are active now. The owner's son, he's about to go pro pretty soon. Like it's just that Muay Thai in general is really becoming a lot more accessible and more successful anywhere that I go. And it's really good to see because listen, I'm only going to compete for X amount of time. And like
Yeah.
my journey in this isn't just defined by like my competition. It's going to be how I help people do this sport better than I did it. And a big way that I think I can help is like managing people's nutrition well and managing their strength and conditioning well. So that's my main impact that I want. I want people to love Muay Thai and all martial arts. I want people to be healthy enough to train well, strong enough to train well, and feel good about themselves doing the sport, and then also to pass it on. Because a big
Yeah.
part of the sport, I think, is like the responsibility of you had good coaches. You need to make sure the next generation of people coming up have it as good or if not better than you had it.
I agree with that 100%. And I feel like that's my like I talk shit. I talk a lot of shit. And I feel
That's why
like
we like you.
I feel I feel like um there's a lot of old school coaches who come from like an old school mentality, and I just want that to die off because I feel like the new wave is completely changed the mentality of like how the sport should be looked at, where it's not like undying loyalty to people who suck. I think that's important. Like new people want to share the information where like I feel like the old guard wants to just hold it so that you
Safeguard it.
need them. Yeah. And I think that's like what you're saying is very important. That is meant to be shared. It's meant to be spread. It's meant to be like helping the next generation come up, not withholding it. So everybody looks at you like you're the most important person in the room. And like,
This
yes,
sport will only continue to grow if it's accessible to the masses. And it's the people that show up to your gym that will never compete are the ones that actually keep the lights on. The fighters are part of what drives the culture and the sport forward, but you have one fighter. You have 25 people from the gym that show up and buy tickets and support them.
yeah,
Those are the people that actually like will help the sport grow. And they tell their friends to show up and, build the gyms. You need to make Muay Thai accessible to these types of people and safe for these people to train in. Otherwise, you're not on Muay Thai. And, Thailand, for better or worse, has kind of done that in terms of like influencer Muay Thai is becoming a lot more popular now. But at the end of the day, more people are looking at the sport. There's hopefully
yeah.
going to be more money in it. I don't love seeing influencers shake their ass and, fight some, taxi driver in Chiang Mai and come
And
back and say
yeah,
they're a champion. But hey, at the end of the
cosplay in the Lloyd
day,
Crow.
yeah,
Yeah,
at the end
yeah.
of the day, 10 years ago, Muay Thai was a lot smaller than it is now.
It was, yeah, it was much smaller. I agree. Like seeing people like follow my journey as I fight this taxi driver at Lloyd Crow. He's a champion. Like, he's like, bro, I know you're fighting a guy who throws fights. It's aggravating, but I get it. I get it.
That's a part of the game there too, man. Like,
Yeah,
hey,
it's a part of
listen,
the game.
I've had 5 fights in Thailand, and like
Yeah,
some of them were against really good people, some of them were against dudes that were not there to win. Like that
yeah,
is just kind of how that journey goes, and it's only weird if you go home and tell people that this guy who was a former champion, and I had a really hard 5 rounds with him, and it's like just a taxi driver who
but
like
it's what people do. It's what people do. You see it on like social media. People like
yeah.
like make themselves. I mean, again, they're trying to tell stories. I get that, but it's like it's a facade. You're fabricating a little bit. It's like, and I know, and I guess like if you've never been there, you don't notice it. But when you like see who they're fighting, and if you know the person they're fighting, that person's known to throw fights, and you're like, bro, I'm not gonna say who, but there's like a very famous, he's a big influencer, and he posts a lot. And I just happened to train with him like at a gym, and then like we're training, and this dude's sitting there texting on his phone. And I'm like, you're posting all this stuff about how hard you're training, but you're sitting on the corner on your phone, and it's like, the juxtaposition of what you post versus what you actually do. And if people saw this, I'm like, why are you famous? So like,
Yeah, but at the same time, like that stuff really bothers me. And early in my career as like a personal trainer, that stuff drove me mad. I'm like, look
yeah,
at these shitty trainers that like their clients get no value for their money. I could do so much better of a job. Man, maybe I'm just old and bored and just can't. I don't have it anymore. But that type of stuff doesn't bother me. The only thing that really bothers me is like people that put out really horrible information out there that's actually detrimental to people. But
yeah, yeah,
man,
yeah.
if I went online and I got pissed off at every bad take that I saw, like I would be
Be
the
bitter.
angriest dude. I mean, I
Yeah.
already am pretty angry, but like I, my blood pressure would be just sky high then.
Yeah, you'd be bitter. I have to be more like you. I need that zen. I get too upset because I feel like I try to like safe like I hold it very dearly to me, and like but I understand like it's not my sport. It's like it's so many different sides to Muay Thai. So like of
Mhm.
course you're gonna see things you don't like. It doesn't mean like you can't.
Yeah,
It's okay. Yeah.
it's tough, but
It's tough.
at the end of the day, man, like just happy to be here.
Yeah,
Happy that I have a
exactly.
body healthy enough to train.
Yeah.
Happy that I can still compete, and happy that I can help some people. That's how
Yeah,
I
and
look at
you
it.
can contribute to it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I talked Andrew, have you any more questions? I've been talking too much.
Yeah, Ian, you said earlier fighters should be lifting weights. Should we be lifting heavy weights, like low reps, 8 weights, a lot of reps? Is it that simple? Probably not. But yeah, what are you suggesting?
How do I make weight training simple here? Okay, so imagine going into a fight and having never been kicked in the leg and doing a Muay Thai fight. What's going to happen to you the first time you get kicked in the leg? It's going to hurt really bad. It might hurt so bad that you can't fight anymore. That's because you don't have any capacity or any tolerance to stress. Weight training is how you build your body's capacity to handle things. All training in general is like that, but weight training has a unique benefit of being able to strengthen your body in a way that cardiovascular training does not. We always talk about Muay Thai and running. Why do we have to run? Well, it strengthens your shins, it strengthens your bones. Yes, 100%. Follow that logic a little bit farther. You know what else strengthens your bones, tendons, ligaments? Lifting weights. Heavy is relative. For one person, a 50-pound goblet squat is, the heaviest thing they've ever done. For another person, that's a warm up, right? So it's the same for Muay Thai. It's like doing 10 speed kicks for someone that's not in good shape might, put them on the floor. Whereas for a fighter, that's the start and end of each round. So all these things are relative. So it's very hard to give people general prescriptions for like how you should lift. But here's a broad overview. You need to lift weights in order to build some muscle mass. You want muscle mass because it makes you less prone to injury. It can also potentially help you with a lot of things that involve power. Power is basically moving things fast through space. Coordination. You can also improve your coordination through strength training. You can also improve your ability for your body to generate tension, which is kind of a form of coordination. But if you guys ever feel someone in the clinch that's just super strong and just like, oh my God, you're solid.
Yeah.
Most people that develop that are also pretty proficient when it comes to weights and refusing to have their body being kind of deformed through an external force like a barbell. So for example, if you're thinking of a squat where the bar is on your back and you're going down, if you're super soft and loosey-goosey, you're going to shoot down and then really struggle to come back up if you come up at all. If you're clinching and you're super loosey-goosey and someone, puts two hands on the back of your neck and pulls you down and you're super like not able to get stiff, you're going to go right down. So strength training helps your body develop stiffness, internal stiffness, and the ability to withstand external forces using your internal stiffness. That's a
Interesting.
really good broad way of looking at things. It also has the ability to help you improve your mobility. When we think of mobility, we don't just think of like yoga girl who's like super flexible, who can like, get their toe to the back of their head, right? If that was what mobility was about, then it would just be who's the most flexible. Mobility is about strength in these positions, which
Yeah.
when you think about punching, you're extended. Your arm is very long, far away from your body. You need to have enough strength that you can produce force and then withstand the force that you're taking. Same thing with kicking. Strength and conditioning can really help you with that, especially if you use a lot of exercises that are kind of prioritizing mobility. If you want to get someone stronger, you are better served by having them do heavier weights with less repetitions. If you want to improve some body composition and put some tissue on people, you would probably be better served by reducing that weight and doing more repetitions. Most of the time, a program has a balance of those two things. If it's only one thing of those two things, it's too specific. That would be like training for your fight for Muay Thai and only throwing your right kick. You need to do more things than that. You might have the most amazing right kick ever. You might be the best at lifting 5 rep maxes on a deadlift. But if you have no tissue capacity to do anything else, that's not beneficial either, right? To a certain point. So an easy way to look at combat sports lifting is that you should lift minimum 2 days a week. You could have one day where you focus a little bit more on lighter weights moving fast, and then another day where you work on heavier weights moving slow. How long should your lifts take? An hour. Should you do a bunch of punching with dumbbells? No. Why? Because you're doing a ton of punching in your other training. My job as a strength and conditioning coach is to remove redundancy. If we're already doing a ton of like extending the arm and throwing hundreds of punches, you already have really good capacity for that. What you don't have good capacity for is protecting the muscles that are on the back side of the shoulder. All they're doing is taking load and decelerating. They're not actually being stressed in any other way. All they're doing is essentially catching that tension that you put through the pad anytime you punch something or through the bag. So it would make sense for you to like build that tissue up. If all you're doing is training stuff in the front side of your body, it would make a lot of sense to balance the books and train stuff in the back side of your body. That's a really easy way of just conceptually looking at strength training for Muay Thai. The exercises that you choose are just ones that suit your body that have a low skill barrier. I am not a big fan of teaching Olympic lifting to combat sport athletes. Olympic lifts have a massive return on investment for speed and power development. It takes a long time to teach someone how to do a clean well. You know, it's a lot easier to teach someone how to clean a dumbbell or how to work with a landmine attachment. I can teach someone how to do that in no time. Teaching someone how to like clean and jerk, that's a time investment. Do I have an athlete in the off season that really wants to do it? Makes sense. Do I have someone with a fight in 5 weeks? I am not going to fuck around in the gym teaching you a bunch of really complicated stuff. That's a waste of your time, and we don't have that much time.
Yeah.
So your lifting should kind of be determined by like where you're at. Like, are you in camp or out of camp? Do you need to gain strength? Do you need to gain some tissue? Do you like lifting weights? Do you not like lifting weights? What suits your body? What doesn't suit your body? Those are like the questions that I really ask people when I have an intake with someone. But what I can safely tell you guys is like there's no downside to strength training other than the time investment that you need to do.
And something that you mentioned, so you said like twice a week is like a minimum. If you're lifting twice a week, like how would you spread that out? Would it be every 2 days, every 3 days? Like what would be the structure that you're looking for?
If you take a in-season athlete who's generally training twice a day, you would want to pair a strength and conditioning session with like a lighter thing. So let's say Monday you have heavy sparring. You know, it would be a really bad idea is having a lift in the morning.
Yeah.
But okay, like heavy sparring on Monday night. Tuesday morning, you're a little bit broke up. Might make sense to do like a recovery run. Tuesday night, go hit the weight room. Wednesday, medium session. Okay, maybe Wednesday you could do a morning session. Might not be optimal if you just lifted the night before. Maybe you can like spread it out a few more days. Is it optimal to lift 2 days in a row? You can program around that. It's not going to kill you. If it's the only way that I can get an athlete to get his strength and conditioning in, I might take 2 days back to back if I have to.
Okay.
But if I had my way, I would always try and pair it on a day that they have like lower intensity stuff. So like skill work. Like you're going to go in and like drill for an hour. Sure, we can hit the weights in the morning. That'll be fine.
Okay.
Andrew, you looked like you had a question.
Yeah, I was going to say, I guess, so you're saying just because it's kind of more of a skill, you kind of stray away from that Olympic style lifting. But if, maybe somebody has more time, that makes more sense. How do you feel about like machines versus like free weights?
Machines versus free weights is a very simple debate. Is your job to be good at lifting dumbbells, or is your job to add some muscle mass and get stronger? I can't think of anyone whose job it is to get better at moving dumbbells. That's not a sport. If you're a bodybuilder, there is no advantage to you doing a dumbbell chest press versus a chest press machine, provided that chest press machine could put you in the exact same position. More often than not, those machines aren't quite as good for that type of thing. So that's why it might be a better choice to do a dumbbell chest press than a chest press machine that doesn't have the exact same kind of resistance profile, is what you would call it. But if I have a combat sport athlete who's like, hey, I just need to lift some weights a few days a week and I don't know what the hell I'm doing in here, a machine makes a ton of sense. I don't need you to be the dumbbell expert. I need you to get stronger fast. So machines are absolutely wonderful. There's no reason to be like, oh, the dumbbell is better. Most of the time it's not. It has unique advantages, but it also has unique disadvantages as a result, which is the same as Ollie lifting. I love Ollie lifting. I think it's a very useful thing.
Wait, what is it? Ollie?
Olympic lifting, sorry.
Oh, okay.
I think Olympic lifting is uniquely beneficial for some things. I think it's just a high skill thing that has a high return on investment, but a very long time investment. If I have that time, sure. If I don't, why would I do it? If it's going to take me 5 minutes to wait in a session to get a bench so I can have my athlete do some dumbbell chest press, but the chest press machine is free. All right, buddy, get on the machine. Show must go on.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So if you could have one nutritional advice for a beginner or a novice, like if they can only fit one piece of advice in their head, what would you say?
Plan your meals around your training. That is the easiest way for you to at least get some type of eating structure. And I'm being cheeky with this answer, but when you give someone something very easy to do, chances are they have the capacity to do something a little bit extra. So if I tell you all you have to do for me is just plan your meals on your calendar around your training, I bet the next thing they're going to do is like, maybe I should eat a little bit healthier around that. If you make things too hard for people too early, it's overwhelming. If you make things too easy for people, chances are they want to kind of roll with it and like impress you. So start by scheduling your meals around your training on your calendar. I guarantee you that will help.
Yeah. I have a bad habit of I'm either eating too close to training or way too like before. So I got to hit that streak. Like, what do you say, 3 hours about before training?
I would say your last heavy meal before training, 2 to 3 hours is 3 is probably the safest. As you get closer to training, your meal size should decrease and your digestibility of the food should increase, meaning that if I'm 1 hour away from training, I'm not going to have something very full of fiber, very full of protein, very full of fat. I'm going to have something that's very heavy in carbohydrate that's going to digest immediately. Gatorade, fruit, like a smoothie or something like that could be really good. Hell, it could even be a little bit of ice cream. Not ideal, but that's going to digest.
Don't tell Lavelle that.
That's the way.
Don't tell Lavelle that.
Lavelle just walks around with like a tub of Ben and Jerry's. Training is in 8 hours. Carbo loading.
All right. I think that's good. Thank you, Ian.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
We appreciate having you. This was again, I've been waiting for this all week. Like, I've been super excited about just having you talk about this. I feel like this is useful for everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for stopping by.
Very humbled that you guys wanted to have me on. This means a lot. I'm super happy to do this.
Come on, bro.
Happy to do this again if people find it useful.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I learned a lot.
as we hopefully continue to grow, and we would definitely want to have you back on and talk more stuff and like shoot the shit some more. Because there's more stuff I want to talk to you about. We didn't even talk about you being in Thailand. We didn't even talk about like Muay Thai with you that much. We just like mostly just like science, nutrition. So I want to get like more backstory about like, and I didn't even know you did karate or like you were a musician. There's so much shit like we didn't even get to really like dive deep into. So like definitely
I'm a mystery wrapped in an enigma. Jeez, I stumbled through every single word there. So,
but like definitely want to like just shoot the shit some more and talk about more things.
Well, happy to do whatever, lads.
Perfect. Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you again.
Yeah, you want to plug any social media or any websites or anything you have?
You can find me on Instagram, Word of Herb. My last name is Herbert. I'm not just a massive stoner, but I might look like that. I have a website as well where I have my program up. It's called Fit to Fight. I'm about to re-release it in the next 2-3 weeks. Made it better, made it smaller. I'm also about to release a free program for landmine work. A lot of fighters like the landmine, so I'm like, hey, why not? So it's just a free 2-day workout thing. That's going to be up also this month. I mainly post on Instagram. I try and do a Q&A once a week, once every 2 weeks. That's the easiest way to find me. Feel free to reach out by DM. If I don't get back to you straight away, I will get back to you if you message me more than once, probably. So if you have a question and I don't get back to you, just be persistent.
One last question. If somebody
Sure.
wants to get the new version of Fight to Fit, how do we go about getting that?
It will be
What's
on my
the
website,
process? Okay.
ianherbertfitness.com, and I will have it out before my wedding, which is the 26th of March.
We invited.
So I'm saying this out loud now. You're not. Full up, sorry. But if you happen to find yourself in Ireland, sure, why not? I'm putting this out now because if I say it to the world like this, I have to do it because otherwise I'll procrastinate on it.
Yeah.
Well, you heard
again,
it here
thank you
first,
again.
folks.
Yes. Appreciate you, Ian. And
Lovely.
we see you this weekend, I guess. We're coming down
Yeah.
Saturday. So you meet the whole crew.
Sick.
It's us three. We have like 2 extra people coming. Lewis
Cool.
and this kid Darren. Everybody's super cool.
Perfect.
So
I'm gonna put brass knuckles in my gloves and
do it.
I'm gonna
Go for it.
enact revenge on you, Lavelle.
Just hold the roll quarters.
Like barbed wire on my small 4
barbed
ounce
wire and freaking plaster of Paris on your head wraps.
Yeah.
So you just that sweat and it's just starts hardening.
Yeah, old school boxing.
Like, god damn. Yeah, hit hard as shit. But yeah, we'll see you this weekend.
Looking forward to it, man.
All right, man. Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you
Have a
again.
good night.
Thank you, Ian.
Everyone.
Thank you.